Yo, 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 and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
I'm Morgan. Happy Thursday and happy episode 232.
232, aka part 2 from last week from me. Morgan's got a little mini for you.
Oh, a mini.
That she might not even be able to do because we just checked my page count and that's fucking crazy.
In Morgan's mental status?
God.
Crazy.
Don't even look at her, she told
Wait,
me.
I do need to tell you about my last day and a half.
Okay,
so I
tell
had
me.
that dream that I texted you about.
Yes.
So that was yesterday. Basically, to sum it all up, Taylar was over. Guy broke in. I shot and killed someone. And then the medical examiner comes in before the police and she's got a machete because it was her husband that I shot and killed, the intruder. Anyway, it was crazy. I killed someone in my dream. That has never happened
That's crazy.
before. I have never killed somebody in my dream.
I've never had to kill
And
somebody.
even
in my
when I
dream.
sent you that text, I was like, am I going to be flagged? Like,
like my sister did today.
yeah, for real. Oh my God,
Yeah.
don't tell him about that. So I have that dream. And then all day yesterday, it was just like a shit day at work. I was fucking hot. I thought I was going to pass out multiple times. I was like, someone turn the fucking air down. Like, swear to
Right.
God. And it's a hospital. It like stays at 65. Then I get home. I got a little bitty migraine. And then it kind of goes away. I'm like, oh, whoosh, you know.
We're
like,
good.
We're good. But then it was like a lingering headache, like just right above my like right side. And I'm like, huh, I'm going to eat my leftover cheesecake.
Of course.
Eat my cheesecake.
What type of cheesecake? Just plain?
It was white chocolate raspberry truffle
From where?
Cheesecake Factory.
Okay, good deal. Truffle like mushroom truffle? Or like truffle like chocolate truffle?
I think it actually might have been I think it might have been a swirl, not a truffle.
Oh, okay.
I think it was white chocolate raspberry swirl.
Okay, got you. I'm like, wow, mushroom truffle makes me want to vomit even on fries.
I think that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I eat my thing. I'm gonna cry. I have a literal allergic reaction. Okay, my back's all fucking itchy. My eyes red. Taylor's calling me. I'm like in bed at like what was I?
It's like 8:30.
8 o'clock.
I was
go
eating
to
dinner.
bed. I'm like laying there. I'm like I gotta go to sleep. Go to sleep. I wake up. I'm on my way to work this morning, and I am seriously like in a psychosis. I think I'm driving and I see this guy. I would assume that he's probably displaced. I see him walking on the street, but like on the other side of the other lane. So
Right.
like nowhere near my car. And I get like a whoosh smell of like chlorine, like hotel pool water.
Oh.
And in my head, I'm having this vision like,
Oh no.
I
Oh no.
need
Oh
to call the
no.
police right now. Tell them I just saw this man wearing a hat, probably like 6'1", white male, and I am psychic, and I thought I was gonna solve a murder. And then I was like,
Morgan.
I know. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't do that.
No, you cannot. You have no cause.
Crazy. I have no cause. And then I was like, because I passed him when he was outside like a Motel 6 or like some sort of motel like that with outside doors. And it always catches my eye every morning.
Right.
And so I was like, oh my God, what if someone's dead in the pool and like he drowned them? And I'm like, why else would I smell chlorine? Pool water.
Maybe they're shocking the water.
I have no idea. Okay. So then all day at work today, I'm not hot. I'm cold. I'm freezing.
No.
Can't feel my fingers, like bundled up. I'm like, someone turn the fucking heat up.
Guys, it's too cold in here. And they're like, weren't you bitching yesterday about it being
Literally.
too hot?
And then I get home and I'm like, okay, get your shit together because you're being crazy. Sit on this couch. Then you'll get
cute.
ready and get yourself prepared to record. Mental breakdown, guys. Mental breakdown. Nothing was working. Mind you, this last couple of days, I haven't shit since Sunday.
No.
You know that's not like me.
That's
I
not.
shit every day like clockwork.
Right.
I haven't shit since Sunday. My stomach feels like it's gonna fucking burst.
Have you taken a pregnancy test?
No. But I don't, I'm supposed to start my period for another like 2 weeks. Like a
I'm
weekend.
supposed to start like this weekend.
I'm not supposed to start my period till like next
How did
Friday.
we get so separate?
I don't know.
I don't know. We
Like,
were on
like
track.
I'd be way off before any
Yeah.
sort of symptom. Like I'm just like having what's the moon
Just
up to? I don't know. Like full moon.
Wait, did I
red
tell you
moon?
that like something was going on with like Mercury and Venus or something?
Something.
I don't remember what it was.
And I'm just losing my mind, guys. And Aaron went on a run. He's been running. So cute.
Oh yeah.
I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
And he's in the shower singing. And that just irritated me more because I'm like,
Murderous. He went on a run at like 3?
yeah.
Oh, that's crazy behavior. Well, I guess it's not hot yet. I'm thinking 3 o'clock in the summer. I'm like, I would never.
Yeah.
You never catch me dead outside.
neither.
Not even walking, but it's not. It's literally cold out.
Yeah, he's told himself that he's not going to do it unless he does it as soon as he gets home from work. Like, he's
Gotcha.
not allowed to sit on the couch.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
So,
Holding yourself accountable.
And then I felt like shit too because I'm sitting there eating the frosted animal cookies
Oh, those sound
on the couch,
so
and
good.
he's like running,
Okay.
and I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, there's no self-love here. God, like, I don't, what?
Logan ran 10 miles this weekend and like came back and he was like, what have you done? And I was like, I
chilling.
ate sourdough toast and I was on TikTok and what? Like,
I don't have to be doing
give
anything.
a fuck. Like, it doesn't matter. But I did go work out. I did Pilates.
Good, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, then it sent me into a tailspin. Remember that Thursday that I like did that whole vlog or Wednesday or whatever? Yeah, it was a Wednesday, and I like went to Pilates and all the shit. Well, I thought I Snapchatted you this. I thought I fucking booked a reformer flow, but I thought I did it at a 1.5. I typically like a level 1 class only because it's just like a little bit slower and I can focus more on my muscles and like isolation of the muscles
That
when I'm
has to
working
come
out. Your hair still looks good. She just
It
threw her
was
hat.
giving me a
The
headache.
BTBC hat is gone over.
I love it. Cute.
Very cute. She
Headache.
literally just came up. We had just unboxed them. Anyways, we know. We just got it. Okay. There was some delay with the warehouse. Okay. Anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to do a Reformer Flow 1.5 because I was like, okay, I need like some quicker movement. I want to be sore, but
Not
I don't
too
want to be
sore.
murdered, right?
Yeah.
No, bitch, I accidentally booked a cardio strength 1.5. There was jump boards on the Reformers when I walked in there. I jumped the entire fucking class. I thought I was going to die because you have to be like in the mood to do like it was like a high
And mentally prepared.
it was like a fucking Orange Theory
Like a
workout. Like, and we would be on the reformer, jumping, get down and do planks.
No.
And I hate to be a hater, but I love being a hater. What am I talking about?
It's our favorite thing.
But I've never gone to this instructor before. I wanted to fucking strangle her.
Uh-oh.
She was airline voice, like, okay, everybody, so now we're going to grab. I'm like, I'll choke you out. Like,
No,
and I'm already pissed that I didn't
I'm
realize.
pissed I'm here.
I'm pissed I'm here. I'm pissed that I pissed at myself because I booked the wrong fucking class.
Can you not just chill?
I was so dead. By the end of that, I had to come home and edit, and that was the day that we had the long edit. That was also the day that everything went to shit, that like the world ended. Our computer crashed. So by the way, Patreon's gonna get an earful from us this week.
Yeah, she don't did
fucking
crash.
Computer crashed. Me and Morgan were supposed
That was like a 12-hour process.
that was a
like
Wednesday.
A full 24 hours.
Yeah, that was a Wednesday. By the next Thursday, Thursday, me and Morgan were supposed to record. I call her and I was like, I am so sorry. Texting. I am so sorry, but I can't do it today. I really can't. I go and I get in the shower. By the way, I told her to get to my house at like 5. And it was 4:30. I find myself in the shower. That's when I send her the text. And I'm like, there's no way I can recover from this. I'm in the shower. My hair got wet. Like, I would have walked to the shower with all my clothes on. Honest to God. That's how down bad I was. So I get into the shower, text Morgan, cancel it. Morgan's like, you were 2 seconds away from me having
you were lucky.
makeup put on.
I had a foundation right here.
Right by your face, ready to go. And I'm sure you were like, okay, perfect. But I get out of the shower, sopping wet, right? Wrapped up in my towels. And Morgan and everyone that like knows me from college knows that like Taylar has her towel time.
Yeah, it's like a prolonged.
Yeah, I love being
Towel
in a towel.
exposure?
Yeah, like I like being in a towel. I'll put on my lotion. I'll stay in my towel for a little bit. I'll go sit down. It's not like a sopping wet towel, mind you. It's just like a towel. So I'm not getting like yeast infections or anything gross like that. But anyways, not that yeast infections are gross. I've had some in the past. And anyone that has a yeast infection, I totally understand. So
word vomit.
I didn't want
so good at
someone to be
this.
like, wow, she fucking hates yeast infections. She thinks I'm gross. Like,
Wow, yeah, she thinks I'm
no,
fucking
no,
nasty
that should
bitch.
just be happening sometimes. I get it, okay? So anyways, I go outside in my towel, head towel and body towel, feet in the grass because I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it
ground.
anymore. I smoked a joint outside midday. People are picking up their kids. The school buses are coming by midday, 4:35. But still, like, I live on a pretty busy street.
Yeah.
In my towel, standing feet in the grass. Text Susan, I need you to do something. I don't know what you need me to do.
something.
Susan calls me on Saturday out of the blue. Boop. I'm like, hello. She's like,
Guys,
there's a few things I need to tell you.
that's my least favorite thing is to see a pop-up call from Susan.
Because I'm either like, oh no, something bad has happened. Like there's
Yes.
like she saw something, and what she saw and what she had to tell me was like not that big of a deal. I just that there was gonna be some roadblocks coming up, but that's totally fine. Like, I could deal with that.
Yeah.
I could deal with that.
We hit a full-on stop. We hit a train. There was no roadblock.
There was no roadblock.
We ran into the train.
No, we hit a fucking brick wall.
Yes.
Glass ceiling, never heard of that. We can't shatter this shit.
I'm thinking we hit a train and went spinning down the fucking road.
Yeah.
Bye.
Just leave us a good review and tell your friends about us. Anyways, yeah, the last few fucking days have been insane. The energy's got to be off. Something's up.
Something is up.
Something's up. We went out. We got fucked up. We don't be doing that.
Maybe that was it.
No, because that felt great. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. I
actually was so hungover Saturday, and I had 3 drinks. That is it.
I felt like I was gonna be hungover, but then I pounded food and I was good. So.
Oh my God. I was like,
those drinks were
headache.
way too sugary. If I wouldn't have, my third drink would have been a sugary drink and not a martini, I would have been throwing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what mine was. I was like,
we need to get you like a gin martini with the twist, with a lemon twist. That's got to be your obsession. And then you could be with a twist and I could be filthy dirty slut.
With a twist.
With a twist.
Martini with a twist.
I want to go make one right fucking now.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get creepy.
So, we are back with my part 2, and I had to go pour up a drink to prepare for this. And our cute little fucking
they are
new,
so cute.
Yeah, our little martini glasses that we got. They're so cute. We got them from World Market.
Haven't used them yet.
Yeah, you got to. Well, don't worry. You can use on St. Patty's Day this
Friday.
Friday.
But we haven't. This
is our first time using it. We are going to get into this case. And before we do, if you have not listened to 231 yet, you have to go listen, because it is part 1 and all of the information in that is very, very crucial. Every second of it is very, very crucial for you to be able to understand this part 2. Because me and Morgan, it's been a full week since we have talked about this case. And also for you guys now, it has been a full week. I'm going to give us a little recap, and then I'm going to check in and make sure there's nothing else that Morgan needs me to mention to help her keep on, because it would be probably the same for you guys. But I did want to note really quickly that the Spotify comments on this episode were so fucking nice.
Aww.
And someone, let me toot my own fucking horn for a second. Someone was like, I've listened to at least 3 other podcasts cover this case, and never once have I gotten this much information.
Wow.
So all I have to say,
that's a huge compliment.
That's the biggest compliment that you could ever fucking give me. So keep it coming, you know.
We need more.
We would love more. We would like them beside a 5-star if you could. But
we did get a couple new nice reviews.
We did.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of new ones actually after the crying fit, where we were like, you don't. Whatever. It's okay. I'll do anything for some clout. That's a business we're in, babes. Anyways, let's get into the recap.
The iPad's here.
The iPad is here. So we are in Australia, and it's January 26, 1966, which is a holiday. 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Arna, and 4-year-old Grant Bowmont leave their home in Somerton Park, which is a suburb of Adelaide, to catch the 10:15 a.m. bus to the Mosley Street stop, which is the stop that they would regularly get off at in like downtown Adelaide area, in order to go to Glenelg Beach. Someone also commented, you said it right at this point in time. Granted, 2 people actually were like, hey, I'm from Australia. You said it right at this point in time.
Love them.
They said it's a 1 hour and 10 minute mark. I say it 2 times back to back, and I'm like, which other fuck one it is?
Which one?
I'm like, fuck. Can you guys give me a pronunciation? Like spell it out, please. But I think it's the Glenelg. Okay. Glenelg Beach and Collie Reserve Park, where they often went on their own, as this is the 60s, to play with friends, play with each other, etc. Now, their mother, Nancy, gave them enough money, 8 shillings and 6 pence, to buy themselves lunch, maybe get an ice cream, and then get to and from the beach on the bus, because it was like 104 degrees Fahrenheit outside that day. So hot, so she didn't want them walking, which would have only been like a 20-minute walk if they were. As they had done literally just the day before, the children were instructed instructed by Nancy to return home on the midday or noon bus, where their mother would be waiting for them at the bus stop. Now, mind you, this bus stop was, I think, like 500 feet or 500 yards from their house. So it was no big deal for her to like get to it or the kids to get to it without, whatever. She's out there waiting for them and they don't come. Now, she's like, all right, no big deal. She had been with her friend at her house that morning, like driven her bike to meet the kids, coming back home from her friend's house. And then she goes back home thinking like, okay, the kids, it's a crowded fucking day. Maybe they lost track of time, or maybe the bus was too full, so they decided to wait until the 2:30 bus or the 3:30 bus. Now, during this time at around 3, their father, Jim, returns home early from a sales trip, and she's like, oh my God, thank God you're here. Let me tell you this. And he's like, let's just wait until the 3:30 p.m. bus before we start freaking out. Well, 3:30 comes and goes. Kids are not home yet. Jim gets in his car, tells Nancy to stay there just in case the kids came home, and he goes to the beach to search for them. No luck. So he comes back home being like, are they here with Nancy? Nope, they're not. So Nancy jumps in the car with him. They go do a second search, which was pretty much nearly impossible because of just how packed the parks, the beaches, the streets were, with it being Australia Day, the holiday. And by 5:30 p.m., they could not wait any longer. So they went to the police department on Mosley Street and reported their 3 children missing. The search immediately began for the kids. I'm talking land, air, and sea, but no luck. They determined that the children had to have been abducted and reached out to the public for help. Several witnesses came forward that helped investigators create a timeline of the children's last movements. I have to get rid of this fucking case on the iPad. I was wondering
when you're going to do that.
I thought I was going to be able to
It just extended the size like 10 times.
I can't get it. I'm going to freak. Okay, we're good. Okay. We're fine. So, where were we at? The search. Land, air, and sea. No luck. They determined that the kids had to have been abducted and reach out to the public for help. Several witnesses come forward that helped investigators create a timeline of the children's last movements, as well as get a composite sketch of the unknown male that they were last seen with. Now, refresher, the guy looked to be like in his late 30s, early 40s. He had either light brown or dark blonde, wavy but neatly parted hair. He was tall, approximately 6 foot, with a very athletic build. Bro had a huge forehead, a long, narrow face, and the composite sketch I had up for you guys last week, and we're going to be talking about it a lot more this week. But they give this description, a composite sketch is made, and essentially they determine, using the timeline created by the witnesses, that the children left Collie Reserve with this man at approximately 12:30 p.m. in the afternoon of the 26th. In the several months and years that followed, with no big breaks in the case, there was a call that was overheard from this guy that didn't pan out to anything. There was a letter that the kids need to be picked up at this post office in Melbourne. A rogue cop gets fired and all this shit. The letters were a hoax.
That cop was crazy.
The cop was insane. And the media burns the relationship that they have with the Bowmont. So the Bowmont's like, fuck you guys. We will never talk to you again. Also, we had a psychic that comes in. He's from the Netherlands and he's adamant that the children, or something that relates to the children, is buried under this like local warehouse that's just 500 or so yards away from their home. And then 2 other cases that investigators, the media, and the public all believe could be connected to Jane, Arna, and Grant's abductions take place. Now, the first one was the Wanda Beach murders that took place exactly a year prior in 1965 to the Beaumonts going missing. And the second case being the Adelaide Oval abductions that took place 7 years after the Beaumonts abductions, which is where we left off in part 1. So do you have any questions or like things that you're like, wait, you forgot to say this?
No, this second case, you kind of introduced it, right? It's like the stadium.
Yep, the stadium.
But we haven't heard that yet.
But we haven't gotten into the details of it yet.
You.
It's August 25th, 1973. That day, there was an Australian rules football match at the Adelaide Oval Stadium, which has a capacity up to 53,500. And it was packed out. The Oval sits in North Adelaide, approximately 12.5 kilometers or 7.7 miles northeast from the location that the Beaumont children were last seen. Attending this match was 11-year-old Joanne Ratcliffe, her older brother, their parents, Les and Kathleen, and a family friend named Frank. Seated right next to the Ratcliffe family was 4-year-old Kirsty Jane Gordon and her maternal grandmother, Rita, who was watching, her grandma was watching her because her parents, Greg and Christine Gordon, as well as her brand new baby little sister, were visiting some friends in another city. Kirsty's grandma, Rita, and Joanne's parents were good friends. Now, I'm not sure if they like knew each other outside of these games or if it was more like a situation like they had season tickets beside each other for like the longest time and they just like grew a friendship in that way. Either way, though, Rita and the Ratcliffes knew each other, but this was the girls' first time meeting. So Kirsty and Joanne met for the first time that day. And pretty much immediately, Joanne was obsessed with Kirsty, treating her like the little sister she never had and playing with her the entire game. For this game, they had like a little system in place, and for any game that Joanne came with her parents to, where if one of the little girls needed to use the restrooms and their parents did not, Joanne and Kirsty would go together. The only rule was that they were not allowed to go during the game breaks or during the last quarter, as they could get lost, separated in the crowds from each other, or the game would end while they were away from their parents/guardians. Well, this routine worked great for them. So during that game, the girls had gone to the restroom on 2 different occasions together. The first time went totally fine. It was like in the first half. And then the second time, very different story. So for some context, an Australian rules football match typically lasts about 80 minutes total. It's separated into 4 20-minute quarters, but can go over depending on game stops, such as injuries, scores, etc. Well, during the third quarter at approximately 3:45 p.m., Kirsty and Joanne needed to use the restroom, so their parents allowed them to go just as they had done before, because it's not the final quarter yet and it wasn't like a game break, expecting that the children would return within 5 to 10 minutes tops. But they didn't. The parents didn't panic yet, though, instead thinking like, okay, maybe there's a line or maybe someone needed some extra time in the bathroom. However, once 15 minutes had passed, they could not wait any longer. Plus that that quarter was coming to an end. So the Ratcliffes instructed Rita and their friend Frank, along with Joanne's older brother, so their oldest son, to wait at the seats just in case the girls returned while they were gone. They go and they start canvassing every single bathroom stall, all the hallways, all the walkways, and they cannot find these little girls anywhere. They go back to their seats hoping that the girls would just be sitting there with Frank, the older brother, and Rita, but they were not.
Oh my God.
Immediately, no, I'm sick over this. This is like a nightmare. Immediately, Les and Kathleen go to the Oval's head office and request for them to make an announcement over the system for the girls. But because there was a play in progress, they couldn't make the announcement until the quarter ended. Spoiler alert, they never made it when the quarter ended. The Ratcliffes were pissed, but went to the security and asked them for help searching for the girls and continued scouring the stadium for them. In a race against the clock, because the game was very quickly coming to an end, angry that the announcement was never made at the end of the third before the fourth, Kathleen storms back up to the head offices and begs them to please do the announcement, which they finally did, but only after 5 p.m. when the game had ended. So people were just leaving in crowds out there. No one's listening. Loud. Right. So the police were called at this point, and the girls were officially filed as missing at 5:12 p.m. Search efforts began immediately, using the media to blast out photos, timelines, and descriptions of the girls, hoping that anyone saw something or would come forward. And just like in the Bowmont's case, they did. Terrifyingly, several of the witnesses not only saw the girls, but saw the 2 of them with an unidentified man. The first being an employee of the Oval, who is referred to as Ken. He comes forward and he tells police that he saw Joanne and Kirsty near one of the equipment sheds on the stadium grounds, seemingly attempting to lure some kittens out from underneath a parked car. That wasn't anything out of the ordinary, though, as there were like tons of stray cats around the stadium that lived on the grounds, and children would often go play with them during the games. However, the girls were not doing this on their own. There was a man with them, and Ken got got a really good look at him. He described the man to be middle-aged, approximately 5'8" or taller, and wearing a very distinctive sports jacket that was checkered gray with brown pants and a brown hat, which perfectly matched the description that another witness gave them. Now, this second witness was actually a teenage boy who didn't come forward to investigators until about a week after the girl's disappearance, because he didn't know that, kids don't be fucking watching the news, So when he watches the news one night with his parents, he's like, I saw those girls with the man that this guy's describing, and so his parents bring him to police so he can give a formal report. He explains that he saw the two little girls that matched Joanne and Kirsty's descriptions perfectly with that same man. But instead of playing with kittens innocently under a car, he saw the man, according to the Canberra Times, quote, forcibly maneuvering the two girls towards one of the exits and into the public parking lot, end quote, detailing that the man was holding Kirsty under one of his arms while dragging Joanne behind him with the other. The reason that this scene caught his eye and stood out to him, imprinted in his brain even a week later, was because both Kirsty and Joanne were fighting and struggling with this man as he carried or drugged them away. The teenager gave the same description as Ken, but was able to get a way better looks, thus giving a way more detailed description and information about the man, because he got a good look at his face.
Yeah, and you have to think, you know how many fucking faces you see at a stadium?
Right.
For
Think
something
about it.
to imprint and remember the detail
over
like that, like it
53,000.
was scarring, like something was off.
For him to,
Like
this
that wasn't
teenager,
a dad
right,
dragging his two daughters out
just
because
felt
they were
it.
in trouble.
Right. It was just different than that. So this teenager, he gives the same description of the man as Ken, which is how investigators were able to create a composite sketch. Now, when everyone, investigators, the media, the parents, the public, see the sketch, they are literally stunned because of just how similar the guy looks to the guy that the Bowmonts were last seen with. And I showed you all last week. Morgan, I showed you last week too. But I'm going to show you again side by side because it's just kind of jarring to look at.
Wait, those are two
different sketches. That's the oval. That's the Bowmont.
Oh my God. And how many years
Look
apart?
at those ears. 7 years. All anyone can think when these sketches go out side by side is, oh my God, we have a freaking serial child abductor on the loose for sure. Like, we were worried about it with the Bowmonts.
Don't even try to deny it.
But now, like, no doubt about it. Because of also just how similar these cases are. Both a group of young kids that were traveling together, both in crowded areas, both in broad daylight. Large-scale searches for Joanne and Kirsty took place just like with the Bowmonts, with rewards being set for any information and help from the rest of the community.
And also both routine.
Exactly.
These kids had the same patterns. Like those girls would go to the bathroom
They had
together.
just gone like 2 quarters prior. Right.
And any other game prior to that.
Right. But that was Joanne would do the same. So, yeah. But just like in the Beaumont's case, lead after lead turns into a dead end. Days turn into weeks.
Nobody knows this
Weeks
man.
turn into months.
It's a fucking
months
ghost.
turn into years. And the oval case goes cold as well. Right. No one knows. No one even thinks like,
Walking on the street being like
granted, I will say like they all had like over 10,000 tips that came in, but like no one's standing out to these investigators. That's what's crazy about it. And I'm not one to sit here and like, you guys know I'm typically the first one to say some shit about an investigator, but these investigators have been really fucking proactive and like fast moving and like doing what they can and putting a lot of resources and time.
But like this guy can't hide forever. He's at a grocery store. He's getting gas.
And these are both in Adelaide.
And no one, like these pictures are plastered all over the media. Everybody knows this
Everyone
sketch.
knows who these people are.
And I don't know how.
So
he was
clearly
never...
they're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
For years, rumors swirl, tips are sent in for both cases, and conspiracy theories run rampant. Several suspects in both cases were looked into, questioned, released, and ultimately cleared. Before long, it was only every now and again that their cases got mentioned by the media, with law enforcement and the media having to move forward and focus on other cases that were taking place in the area. But no one forgot. It wasn't until the late 70s that these cases were all that anyone could think of again, when yet another string of tragedies takes place. I hate this part.
Oh, no.
I'm not even going into full detail, and I hate it. From 1979 to 1983, 5 young men between the ages of 14 and 25 were kidnapped, drugged, sexually abused, tortured, and murdered in Adelaide, and mutilated when they were discovered. Police believed that these crimes were being committed by a group of up to 12 people, several of which were high-profile Australians that were referred to as, quote, the family.
What?
Which is why this case is known as the family murders. If I took us through the entirety of these horrific murders and the investigation right now, I would have to make this a 5-parter, and I'm not even fucking shitting you. So I'm going to hold off for now. Plus, these cases are really, really fucking terrible that I think more than half of you guys would have to check out, not even finish it. And because of that, I'm just going to skip to the connection part to the Beaumont's case, and I'm going to cover the full case at another time. I'm actually thinking that I'm going to do it next week on Patreon. TBD. So this is what you need to know. Out of the 5 total confirmed murders that took place and the 12 suspects that made up the, quote, family, only one suspect named Bevan Spencer Von Edom was charged and convicted for only one of the murders, I believe through DNA, but for sure, like crucial, solid evidence like fibers and hairs and witness statements. Now, one of these witnesses that testified against Bevan is only referred to as, quote, Mr. B due to confidentiality. Also, just to note, my primary source for this section is the book Searching for the Beaumont Children by Alan Whitaker. Another important thing to note is the fact that Mr. B was a willing participant in the crime that Bevan was charged with and a very close friend of Bevan, aka he was not testifying against his buddy out of the goodness of his heart. Mr. B got an immunity deal.
Okay.
The victim in this crime, a 15-year-old boy, was discovered on July 24th, 1983, 7 weeks after he was abducted by Bevan. He was discovered by a geologist who was searching for moss-covered rocks near a dirt airstrip in Kersbrook/One Tree Hill area, which is just northeast of Adelaide. And according to an autopsy, the victim had died of massive blood loss and traces of 4 different hypnotic drugs in his system. It was determined that the boy had been tortured and held captive for 5 weeks.
Oh my God.
Before he was finally killed and dumped in the location where he was found just 2 weeks prior to being discovered. Now, allegedly, Bevan, the guy who was convicted, had been bragging to Mr. B about abducting the Bowmont from the beach in 1966, telling Mr. B that he had taken the children to his home where he, trigger warning, quote, conducted brilliant surgeries and experiments on the children.
Oh my God.
Claiming to have connected them together. Mind you, this motherfucker's an accountant.
The fuck is wrong with people?
According to what he told Mr. B, only one of the children died during his procedure, which then, quote, forced him to have to kill the other 2, at which point he disposed of their bodies in bushland south of Adelaide. This was significant because it is well known that Bevan was known to frequent Glenelg Beach and often hung around the changing rooms with children and would like peep this fucker. How's that well known and he's not been in prison for his
real.
whole life, you know?
Why is that just word on the street?
Right. The thing is, though, Bevan would have only been 19, 4 months away from turning 20 at the time that the Beaumont children were abducted. Despite this, they pull up that composite sketch that's connected to the Beaumont children. And though it's not a perfect match, they do see some resemblances. And I'm going to show you, Morgan, and you guys can see this on our Instagram story or the highlights if, you know, you're listening to this at a later time. But the middle picture is him when he was approximately like 17, so he'd have been 2 years older than that. And then the picture on the far right is when he was, I think, late 20s. So similar.
Why does he look so different from those?
When he was a kid? I know. Well, because I think that's a mugshot.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like, okay, if the hair was changed or if there was a hat on or something.
Right. Maybe he had his hair done. I don't know.
The jaw, if he was like real thin face.
Yeah.
I could see that.
To me, it's the nose.
Let me see again.
Like, this guy's got a way bigger nose where the composite sketch has a very thin nose. So I don't know, but anyways, they're like, okay, there's enough similarities here that we should continue looking on.
And also maybe the reason that none of those leads went through is because the composite sketch was not accurate.
Was wrong. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what they're thinking, right? No matter what, investigators were determined to see this potential lead through, though, because up until this point, Mr. B had given them very good, reliable, and true testimony. Like, why would he lie now about this? So in 1990, they send a team of divers out to the Maiponga Reservoir, which is about 55 kilometers or 35 miles south of Glenelg Beach, directly down the coast. As this was the location that Mr. B pointed out, according to that conversation he had with Bevan about the place that he would have disposed of the children's bodies. However, this was unsuccessful, and though they couldn't rule Bevan out completely in the Bowmont case, he definitely wasn't one of their top guys and became more of like a person of interest to them, especially when you consider prior to this connection, all the crimes, yes, they were way more than just the one that he's being convicted of in this, where this testimony is coming out, were focused on young boys and men because he was gay, giving John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
Then in 1998, it gets picked up once more following the arrest of a disgusting man named Arthur Stanley Brown for the 1970 murders of 7 and 5-year-old sisters. Just a quick breakdown of this case. On the morning of August 26, 1970, 7-year-old Judith and 5-year-old Susan McKay were abducted from their school bus stop just 660 feet from their home in Townsville, Queensland, Australia. For context, this location is a 28-hour or 2,631 kilometer or 1,634 mile drive northeast of Adelaide. So it's like above Sydney. Like if you're looking at Australia, middle to the right just a little bit, bottom, Adelaide, around 1 o'clock, 1:30 is Townsville. Make sense?
Not the 1:30.
Like
Minahan?
Like no, the hour part. You know, like when it's like at 1:30, it's about halfway point between the 1 and the 2.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it would be.
I'm gonna start saying on your 1:30.
On your 1:30. That's about where it's at approximately.
I'm just gonna look at it.
Yeah, go ahead and pull up your maps again, okay? It's a 28-hour drive. That's the most important thing that you need to know. However, no one knew that the children had been abducted just 10 minutes after leaving their home that morning until after school ended and the sisters failed to return home, at which point they were reported missing by their mother. This is before they would call you and be like, where the fuck is your kid? You know? 2 days later, on August 28th, their bodies were discovered in a dry creek bed 25 kilometers or 16 miles southwest of their home by searchers. 5-year-old Susan's body was discovered first. From her body, the searchers followed footprints that led them 230 feet away, where they would find the body of 7-year-old Judith. Both of the girls had been raped, strangled, and stabbed 3 times each in the chest. Their Aitkenvale, I think is how you say it, school uniforms, shoes, and straw hats were discovered beside their bodies, folded neatly, with their socks neatly folded and placed inside of their shoes, and their uniforms neatly folded and placed inside of their school bags. The community was absolutely horrified by these murders, and tips came flooding in because the community was like, we're not fucking doing this.
Yeah,
like,
not here.
One witness reported seeing the girls talking to a man who was in a light blue car at the bus stop by their house at approximately 8:10 a.m., which is the exact time that investigators believed that they were taken. A second witness came forward claiming to have seen a man with 2 young girls in school uniforms just after 11 a.m. at a service station, a gas station for my Americans, approximately 85 kilometers or 53 miles south from where the girls were abducted, also in a light blue car. This witness was the station attendant named Jean, and she actually heard the girls speaking with the man, with the youngest one, which we know is Susan, asking the man, "Are we there yet?" before the older one, which we know is Judith, asked, "When are you taking us to mommy? You promised you were going to take us to mommy."
Oh my God. My heart.
After pulling out of the gas station, that same light blue car driven by this man with the 2 young girls in the back cuts off another driver who then came forward to police. And this driver was named Neil. He was a soldier who had just returned home from Vietnam. Once they got to a stop, Neil rolled up beside the light blue car and rolled down his window and confronted the man that was driving the light blue car, at which point he gets a good look at the man and the 2 little girls in the back. Neil said that the girls were wearing Aitkenvale school uniforms and felt as if the driver was trying to hide or shield the girls from being seen by him. 2 other witnesses came forward claiming that they saw a man walking towards that same light blue car as the other witnesses described from the direction of the location where the girls' bodies were later discovered at approximately 1 p.m. on that same day. All of these witnesses described the car to look similar to a Holden EH or a Vauxhall Victor, but eventually the investigators were like, okay, so we think it looks like this car that's kind of like a mix of the 2, and that car was a Holden FJ. So that's kind of what they went with. So that was like what was everywhere. Anyone driving a light blue Holden FJ or similar car, and these are kind of like old fucking cars, like what you see like collectors driving. Normally this type of car is like red and has like black wheels with white hubcaps on, and it's always like a papal with white hair that's neatly parted and a white tucked in shirt. You know what I mean? My neighbor was Mr. Keesley, and he collected cars like that, and he drove an exact car like this. So that's the image that's coming up in my mind. But they all these people noted that the driver's side door was a different color, as if it had recently been replaced and not been painted yet.
That can't be hard to find.
Right, exactly. And these are like few and far between fucking cars.
Almost collectibles.
Right, so they're collectibles. So even though they're like a little closer to the time that they're still collectibles at this point in time. So like you had to love on this car and take good care of it to have one.
And I'm sure there's not many body shops that just got rid of a car door.
Right, exactly. And also these witnesses all described the man as having parted to one side, light brown or dark blonde, high cheekbones, a narrow skull, and quote, Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh my God. It's him.
This case went cold for several years until 1998 when a cousin of Arthur Brown's wife, bringing it back to the guy that I'm talking about, decides to call Crime Stoppers after watching an episode that featured the McKay sisters' case and realized that the man that they were looking for was her cousin's husband, Arthur Brown, because not only did he perfectly match the description of the suspect and the fact that he also drove a light blue colored Vauxhall Victor, so one of the 3 with an odd colored driver's side door that mysteriously got changed right after these murders, but she was also a victim of his. He had molested her years before, along with several other family members on both his and his wife's side of the family.
What?
Investigators call this woman back and set up an interview with her, and based on everything that she had, they were able to conduct several more interviews with other family members that led them to having 45 cases of pedophilia and molestation against children and family members that they could charge him with.
Holy
so
shit.
No matter what, if he was or if he wasn't involved in the sisters' abductions, they had him
up.
right, as well as enough circumstantial evidence linking him to the McKay sisters' murders, such as the fact that he had been working at the girls' school as a carpenter at the time of their abductions, and Anthill Creek, which is where the girls were found, was the same location that he had taken several, like at least half of the 45 other people that had charges against him to be molested. That was like his spot.
Wow.
In addition to all of this, 2 people came forward to police explaining that there had been 2 separate occasions that Brown had confessed to the murders of the sisters. The first being just a month after their murders. In September of 1970, when he was drinking at a local tavern, Brown was sitting beside 19-year-old John. I'm not going to use his full name. They just kind of got to talking after sitting there and drinking for a bit, at which point Brown was like, "Oh man, have you been following the McKay sisters case?" And John's like, "Yeah, it's all over the news. I've been seeing it. I hope they find that piece of shit." To which Arthur Brown says something along the lines of, "Well, they're looking for the wrong car." Remember how I said they were initially looking for an FJ? Because I drive a Vauxhall Victor.
Oh my God.
And then he left. So this kid, John, immediately pays his tab and goes to the police and reports this, but he couldn't remember the dude's full name. So he was like, I think it was something like Artie Brown. I don't know. The second confession took place at some point in 1975 to a man named also John, but John Hill. So we're going to call him Hill. Hill was Brown's apprentice because he was a carpenter for like government buildings at this point in time, and truly thought when Brown said this to him that he was just fucking joking, because he was like, he was always like a weird guy that just said like stupid dark jokes or whatever, but like I never took anything that he said seriously, so he never reported it. Brown was arrested soon after the Crime Stoppers call was made by his wife's cousin and charged with sexual assault and rape of 6 different children, as well as the abductions, rapes, and murders of Susan and Judith McKay. When this hit the national news in Australia in 1998 with his arrest and everything, calls began flooding into Adelaide investigators, because it didn't take a fucking detective to notice just how similar Brown looked to the composite sketches of the suspects from not only the Beaumont's case, but the Oval Stadium abductions as well. Morgan, are you fucking ready for this?
I'm not.
So far left is him when he was young.
What? How far did he live again? 28 hours?
28 hours away.
That's
from
why
Adelaide.
No one knew him. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my fucking God. I mean, you truly
zoom in on that far left.
You truly cannot tell me.
Oh,
you truly cannot tell me.
God.
Yeah. Big Mickey Mouse ears. The ears on the fucking sketch. His thin face, that chin, Morgan. When I saw this for the first time, I like by myself in this room.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
Crazy.
That's
I've never seen
crazy.
a sketch that similar.
I know.
Ever.
Despite the fact that he looks exactly like both of these sketches and was known for wearing fucking hats. He would have been around 54 years old at the time of the Beaumont's abductions, and investigators could not get enough evidence that he had ever actually even been to Adelaide, because there were no surviving records due to the 1974 Brisbane flood, not fire. I don't know why I keep wanting to say fire, which is where they would have been held, like his employment records that would have shown like everywhere that he worked, shit that we have access to on Ancestry these days.
Yeah.
But before then it wasn't digitized. Also, remember how I said he worked in government buildings? Mm-hmm. He could have gotten rid of them himself.
What do we have his title?
He was just a carpenter, so he would go in and do maintenance in all the buildings at
After
all times.
Hours.
Yep,
Yeah.
when no one was there.
Wow.
And it's not like there were security cameras.
Right.
Either way, in 2000, when he stood trial for the 1998 arrest and charges for the McKay sisters, along with the 6 other charges that he got for child rape and molestations, he was determined to be unfit for trial because he was diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. He died 2 years later in 2002. Suffice to say, though, no matter what, this guy's at the top of the fucking list.
100%.
Top of the list when it comes to a suspect, but he's technically considered a person of interest because of the lack of evidence connecting him to Adelaide. My mind, suspect. Top of the list, right.
What about any connection to Oval?
They could Adelaide, like no connections to Adelaide in general, okay. Right. Now, I'm going to save us some time so I can really focus in on the next part of this. So I'm just going to kind of gloss over 3 additional suspects that are always looked into and like considered still to this day kind of persons of interest, but aren't as high on the list as that guy, Arthur, or the guy before him, Bevan, even though I don't think Bevan's connected to this at all. I think it's outside of his MO. I think Bevan is more of like a little boy. He's after little boys more than anything. And specifically, like all of his victims range in ages from like 13 to like 25. Like, I don't think he would have looked at 2 little girls, 9, 7, and the little boy at the age of 4 and kind of targeted them. So right now for me, Arthur, numero uno. No fucking questions about it.
Yes, me too.
Period. Then there's these other 3 guys that we're going to discuss. And to me, these are suspects, but more of like the person of interest side.
Before you do that, I really have to pee.
Okay, please. Thank God I need to drink this. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go through these 3 suspects. The first one being James Ryan O'Neill, who was connected to the Beaumont's case in 2006 through an ABC documentary called The Fisherman. At this point in time, James was already serving a life sentence in Tasmania for the 1975 murder of a 9-year-old boy that he had abducted, and had told several of his his acquaintances during his time in prison and outside of prison that he was responsible for the Beaumont's abductions. He was in the opal industry, so I'm assuming he's like mining and shit for opals. I don't know if that's really, like, if someone's like, that's not what the fucking opal industry is, it sounds like it, just face value, jewelry. You know? And spent a lot of time in South Australia, but after a lengthy investigation into him, he was ruled out as a suspect in the Beaumont's case. Then there was Derek Ernest Percy, who was an Australian suspected serial killer and convicted child killer. He was arrested in 1969 after abducting a 12-year-old girl from Western Port Bay at knife point and then attempting to abduct her best friend who she was with, an 11-year-old, with a tomahawk.
Sorry.
The friend described the abductor to police as well as his car that he took off in with her friend, which is how investigators later that day found and identified Percy as he was washing his clothes, the blood off of his clothes, in a laundromat. He then led police to the 12-year-old girl's mutilated body in a paddock approximately 8 kilometers or 5 miles from the location that he had abducted her. Another thing to know is that he was also a primary suspect, mind you, in the Wanda Beach murders, as that fucking day he had been with his friends at their grandparents' house in the area.
Oh, shit.
In 2007, a storage unit was discovered by the South Melbourne police that belonged to Percy, where they found over 35 boxes that were filled with his diaries, hand-drawn maps, newspaper clippings of several crimes against children in the area, drawings, and much more, like details of what he did to these children, written confessions, and so on, with some of the documents suggesting that he had been in Adelaide at the time of the Beaumont's abductions. But after questioning him and gathering all the information that they could, it was determined that in 1966 he would have only been 17 years old, which aligns with the Wanda Beach, because if you'll remember, the day before, the two girls were there making out with those guys that were around their age, and they were 15. Which is far too young to match the description of the suspect in the Beaumonts, but is considerable for the Wanda Beach. Also, he was in prison from 1969 to 2013 for 44 years, which makes him the longest person incarcerated in Australia.
Wow.
In history, when he died of lung cancer, meaning he couldn't have been the person behind the Adelaide Oval abductions, which investigators firmly believe is connected to the Beaumont's case. The third suspect is a man named Alan Anthony Munro, who was a former scoutmaster that pled guilty to 10 child sex offenses that dated all the way back to 1962. Well, he was reported as being responsible for the Beaumont's abduction from the moment that it happened, and was actually investigated at the time in 1966 and then later cleared. And years later, sometime around like 2017, there was documents that placed him in Glen Beach in Collar Reserve that day, January 26, 1966, at the time that the Beaumonts disappeared. So they take a second look into him, but they really could not find any evidence that connected him. Because of that, they end up kind of clearing him and keeping him as a person of interest, as well as these other two guys. So we've got first dude in the family, second dude, Arthur, with the light blue car. Then we've got these 3 guys that I just listed off to you. But I have yet to tell you about the number 1 suspect in the Beaumont Children's case. But first, let me fill in some gaps. I know we are discussing things that took place from like 2007 to 2017, whenever I was wrapping up these 3 other guys. But in order for this to make sense, I need to take us back to June of 2006. Okay. It's been 40 years since Jane, Arna, and Grant were last seen. That year, 2006, Alan Whitaker and his research partner, Stuart Mullins, published the book Searching for the Beaumont Children, which has been one of my primary sources and one of the 2 or 3 books that I told you about last week whenever I was listing some sources. Well, at the time that this was released, it truly was the first time in writing and in great detail that wasn't shoved into like a 30-minute slot on a TV show, that there was a full, comprehensive, great detailed breakdown of the Beaumont's case with everything that I have told you up until this point. And it, the book, let's just say, stirred up a lot of chatter and lit fires under people's asses, which leads the authors, Alan and Stewart, to getting several calls of like tips or people wanting to add things or whatever the fuck. But one in particular stood out to them. This was from a woman named Angela, who was adamant that her ex-husband's father was behind the Beaumont abductions. This was not something that she came to on a whim, though. This was a secret that she had been harboring for years.
Oh my God.
Because according to her ex-husband, Hayden, he had seen his father with Jane, Arna, and Grant on January 26, 1966. Angela goes on to explain exactly who her father-in-law was. A local warehouse owner, millionaire businessman, and well-known Adelaide social elite.
Holy shit.
Hiding in plain sight. She goes on discussing the details of how she first learned of his alleged involvement. According to Angela, she met Hayden in the early 1990s, late 1980s, while they were both living in Queensland. It was a whirlwind type of romance, and they married soon after meeting. At that time, they had both been married before and had children from those marriages. On several occasions, they had gone to visit with Hayden's parents in Adelaide at their family home, which sat in Glenorg, on the corner of Augusta and Sussex streets, just 300 meters or 328 yards away from Wenzel's Cake Shop beside Collie Reserve. In fact, according to the Case Files podcast episode on this case, you could literally see the lawns of Collie Reserve where the kids had been playing that day through the windows of this home. Which is why, when visiting her in-laws, Angela would allow her and Hayden's children to walk by themselves to go to the cake shop and get a treat or go play in the park. That is until the late 90s when she and Hayden were watching a TV show about the Beaumont Children's case. Towards the end of the show that they had been watching very intently, quietly, Hayden broke the silence, confessing to his wife that he believed his father had something to do with the Beaumont Children's disappearance. Angela was hesitant to take his claims at face value because he had really been struggling at this point with alcoholism, addiction, and his mental health, which would eventually be what caused their marriage to end a few years later in the early 2000s. But she knew the reason for his struggles because not long before that night where he broke the silence while watching the Beaumont's documentary, Hayden had confided in her that he had been sexually abused by both his father and his paternal grandmother as a child, a topic that they had discussed at length in the weeks and months prior. But this was her first time hearing anything about these suspicions that Hayden had. So she says, "Do you really think that your father would have done something like that?" Meaning, would he really have taken it outside of his family, aka the people he had control over? To which Hayden responded, "Yes, they're in the pit."
The pit?
The pit on the family's property. After several conversations with Angela, years of research, working alongside investigators, hiring private investigators, journalists, and detailed interviews with Angela and her ex-husband Hayden, Alan and Stewart, the authors, and unofficially but officially the police, determined that this man that they're referring to, Angela's ex-father-in-law, was the man that most likely abducted the Beaumonts. So they took all of their findings and they published them in the 2013 book, quote, The Satin Man, Uncovering the Mystery of the Missing Beaumont Children, which again is one of the books that I talked about last week and is one of my primary sources in this case. This is actually the book that I ordered in season 2. And yeah.
And we're like, I need another one.
Yeah, exactly. You guys can find it on Amazon and it's also available on Apple Books. It wasn't at the time that I ordered it, or I would have got it on fucking Apple Books. Anyways, so let's talk about the Satin Man, or his real name, Harry Phipps, the number one suspect in the Beaumont Children's case. In 1966, Harry Phipps lived in Glenorg with his wife and teenage son, Hayden. He owned and operated the Castilloy, I think is how you say it, factory in North Plipton, which is just 4 kilometers or 2.4 miles north of his home in Glenorg. Harry was always keen on his health and physical appearance, working out regularly, leading a very healthy, wellness-focused life, which is why, even at the age of 48 in 1966, he looked like he was in his 30s. He was approximately 6 foot tall. He had a very athletic build, a long face, high forehead, and wavy light brown or dark blonde hair that was always neatly parted to one side. And though he was well loved and regarded by most everyone that knew him during his life, by the time he died in 2004 at the age of 85, I think also due to Alzheimer's or dementia, which seems to be like a trend.
That is a trend. Sorry.
Bless you. There was a small circle of people that knew the truth about the double life that Harry lived, a story that starts from his birth. According to, I put Amanda, but her name's Angela. In the book, The Satin Man, they use fake names for everyone to avoid getting the shit suit out of them. But her real name is Angela, and it's come out in the years prior, or else I would not be using her real name. Anyways, according to Angela, in the book, The Satin Man, Harry was so talking about the main suspect, Harry was the only child born to his parents, and his mother was distraught when she learned that she had given birth to a little boy instead of a little girl, because all she ever wanted was a little girl. Therefore, she raised her son, Harry, as a little girl for the first 5 years of his life, and it is believed that she then began sexually assaulting and abusing him once he was allowed to be a little boy, until he literally moved out of her home.
Holy shit. That's fucking sick.
Despite this, Harry was extremely protective over his mother. No one was allowed to say anything bad. He was in love with his mother, a woman who was known for wearing satin, and often would dress Harry in satin when she would force him to act as if he was a little girl, which led to him developing a fetish for it, thus the name, the Satin Man. Harry would become instantly and uncontrollably aroused by the look, feel, or even sound of satin fabric material.
What on earth?
I'm sorry, but I get people have fetishes that are,
I don't understand that.
Like non-harmful.
It's a material.
But that's fucking and I guess it's sad because it came from his mother abusing him. But I have no fucking sympathy for this guy. Like, you could tell me that his dog got ran over right in front of him and he lost his leg in the kerfuffle of it all. And I literally would be like, I would point at him and laugh. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. So please know that when I have no sympathy.
I don't.
And I don't have it in my mind.
I just don't get materials.
I get people that are want to suck on their wife's toes or whatever. Do your thing. You're not hurting anyone. Pop your shit, twin. But
that's crazy.
I swear to fucking God, if anyone's you guys are literally making fun of that, shut the fuck up.
I know, we'll get it too.
I know, we're definitely gonna
anti-fetish.
Yeah, remember the one time that we called Edmund Kemper the literal co-ed killer, and we didn't even call him. We were quoting Trisha Paytas's trending TikTok sound, fat, fat, fatty. That's what pissed him off, that his mom would call him, and we've literally gotten shit about it since.
2 years later,
I'm putting my feet on the ground, and
I'm done.
I'm done feeling having someone make me feel sorry for what talking shit about a serial killer. I'm truly suck my balls. I don't give a fuck. I don't. That was
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not gonna feel bad for a fucking killer. Sorry. Arrest me. Okay. I'm leaving it in.
That's a 2-year pent up frustration.
That is. That's something I've kept in my heart for so long now, and I truly don't give a fuck. If I fat shamed a serial killer.
Right. And I don't even think when we said it, we were using it in the context to describe him.
It was his mom fat shamed him all the time. And we were like, oh, so basically she was the Trisha Paytas sound. Fatty, fat, fatty.
And then someone heard it 6 months later and clearly had never been on social media
before.
And
they're
like, oh my God. Oh my God. Fat shamers.
I cannot believe you'd be
body
a fat
shamers.
First off, coming from two people that have always struggled with weight, I've only recently ever gotten my life semi under control. Okay, we're not coming after anyone. No one's here fat. Okay, shut the fuck up.
No one's fat.
No one's
except
fat.
Evan Gimper.
Okay,
right,
we're gonna move on from this. I don't this guy can literally burn in hell. All right, going back to satin fetish freak.
Satty.
Satty. Arrest us. Okay, so I need a drink out of that. That was hilarious. So he's got he would get aroused uncontrollably and immediately at the look of, the sound of, or the feel of satin.
The sound of satin.
Therefore, no one
Bro couldn't have satin sheets.
Was allowed to wear satin around him. It was not allowed at any of his businesses. It was a rule. a dress code, no satin. No one, not even his own fucking wife, was allowed to wear satin, which, like,
PJs.
like, what do you mean your wife, if it's a fetish, a sexual fetish, why is your wife not allowed to wear satin?
Maybe because he wouldn't want to fuck her. He'd want to fuck her nightgown. He'd be like, just roll it in a ball.
Exactly.
And put it on my dick.
Right. Exactly. Which, again, I think would really help with him. Like, why can't your wife wear satin? Anyways, no one's allowed to wear satin. We're gonna get serious again because it gets dark. Okay. We're gonna get serious. Get it all out now.
Oh, good.
So no one's allowed to wear satin around this guy because he's obsessed with it. He often made his own satin dresses and pajama sets by himself that he used for sexual gratification alone, that he kept stored in his satin room, which was a don't look at me, which was a private room that was in the house that no one, and I mean not even the cleaners, were allowed to go into.
50 Shades of Satin.
Right. Except for him. Like, not even his wife. No one was allowed in this satin room.
But it was a satin room.
Right. The sound, okay, this is where we're getting for real serious again. The sound, look, and feel of satin eventually began to affect Hayden, his son, in a similar way. Not in an arousal type of way, but more so in a negative hatred and physical or visceral reaction type of way. Because when he would hear his father's satin pants swishing down the hallway towards his room, he knew that the nightmare would follow.
Oh my God, he's fucking sick.
Trigger warning. Multiple times a week for several years of Hayden's life, he would be violently raped by his father, who would always and only wear satin during these attacks, with abuse only stopping once Hayden was old enough to fight Harry. Another dark obsession of Harry's was his large collection of firearms. He kept guns, hundreds of them, all over the... Aren't those illegal in Australia?
We're in Australia, not
right.
America.
Right. Pulse check, which wasn't great.
He was a millionaire.
A socialite. So he kept guns all over the house, which wasn't great considering the fact that he was also an alcoholic who had violent outbursts regularly and would swing around said guns, threatening his own fucking family, including his son, during attacks. So now that you know what a dark and twisted piece of fucking shit Harry Phipps let's talk about what Hayden saw on Australia Day 1966. This comes from his account that was actually recorded and later included in a documentary that came out in 2018, as well as his statements that were recorded in the book The Satin Man. Hayden was in his late teens and working part-time at a local bowling alley. After getting off work that day, he returned home with some friends. At the time, his mother was playing tennis with her friends at the club, and his father's car was in the driveway when he pulled in. Hayden and his friends didn't even go in the house. The first thing that they did was walk from the driveway to the quote cubby house to smoke cigarettes. Now, for all my fellow Americans, that is like a shed, a play, or a tree house that's for kids, but in the backyard. While they're out there smoking cigs, Hayden said that he watched as 3 children walked into the backyard of his family home with his father, who then led the 3 children into the house. He said that the children looked, quote, lost, and he described them by saying that there were 3 of them, with one that was significantly shorter than the others. Because all of the children had, quote, short cropped hair, which we know from pictures they did, he actually initially thought that all 3 of the children were little girls. He goes on, quote, the oldest one, the tallest one, had a shoulder bag, a type of carry bag, on her shoulder. Hayden never saw the children again after they entered the house with his dad. A few hours later, he heard 4 gunshots ring out, which he didn't initially make a big deal of, considering the fact that his dad would either accidentally or purposefully often fire his collection of guns inside and outside of the home and just pay for the damage that they caused.
Okay.
Then, not long after this, he watched as his father carried what looked like 4 large bags or sacks out of the home and placed them into the trunk of his car. These were the same bags that his father was known to use when, quote, moving his satin clothes from one property to the other, as they owned several homes and properties around Adelaide. Hayden lastly watched as his father pulled out of the home and drove away with those bags in the trunk, never seeing the children again. Hayden always had his speculations when it came to his father's involvement in the Bowmont's case after what he had witnessed that day. But it really wasn't until the detail about that £1 note that the children paid with at the cake shop, Wenzel's Cake Shop, that his suspicions were pretty much confirmed, because Harry was known for handing out £1 notes to local children just to flaunt his wealth, but specifically to Hayden, his son, and his son's friends, or anyone else that he wanted to impress or bribe. An example that Hayden gave of this is when his father would want to get him and his friends out of the house so he could go into his satin room. Harry would give all of them £1 notes and tell them to go into Glenelg, go to the cake shop, go play at the reserve, go to the beach.
Wow.
After speaking with both Angela and Hayden, Alan and Stuart needed something more. So they decided to reach out to Harry's widow, which was technically his second wife, who he had married after Hayden's mother died in the 90s. And she agreed to have them over for a chat at the home in Glenelg. In the book, they refer to this woman as Norma. I wasn't able to track down her real name, so that's what I'm going to call her too. And pretty much what everyone else that ever has covered this case on other podcasts ends up having to call her. I'm sorry. I really fucking tried to pull the docs and figure out what this woman's legal name was so I could be different, but I failed. Anyways, interestingly enough, Norma, his second wife, actually used to be their pretty much live-in housekeeper for the Phipps family for like fucking years. So she had been around for a really long time and had seen a lot of shit, which is exactly why Alan and Stuart really wanted to talk with her. They reach out. She's like, yeah, come on over, whatever. Norma was super fucking nice. She was welcoming and made them feel very comfortable in the home. She lit up when speaking about her late husband, Harry, and happily offered to take them on a tour of her giant home that she lived in by herself. And I am not joking. Norma is giving them a 5-star tour of this fucking house. I mean, every single room, even the basement. Now, it was while in the basement that something caught Stuart's eye. Something that looked extremely out of place and very different from the other items that were around it. It was a little white clip-top purse.
Oh my God.
A child's purse. A purse that looked exactly like the one Jane had put those 8 shillings and 6 pence in that Nancy, her mother, had given her on the morning of January 26, 1966, before leaving the house. Stuart kept his cool when he noticed this and calmly asked Norma about the purse, not alluding to the fact that like all this shit was going through his mind, you know? But Norma could not hide her reaction, because the once sweet, kind, well-mannered, welcoming, and calm Norma, who was very happily showing the house and talking about her husband, was now visibly and audibly irritated, scrambling to get her words out as she said, "Oh, well, thank you for noticing. I actually just bought it at a thrift store the other day." Mind you, bitch, this woman, her millionaire husband,
You ain't going to the thrift
just
store.
fucking died.
Yeah.
You're not going to the thrift store.
No.
And if she is
You've
good
never
on
set
her,
foot in a thrift
but
store.
she's not. This woman was at his housekeeper for fucking 40 years. I can almost write down and sign my name on a legal binding contract that she was not at a fucking thrift store.
Yeah.
After that, they leave the home. She kind of like pushes them out unassumingly, but they knew what the fuck was going on. And Stuart and Alan walk a block down the fucking street to Mosley Street, walk into the police station and say, "Hey, detectives, let me tell you about what just happened." And the detectives are like, "Okay, we need to get a warrant and all of our ducks in a row and all the things." And they go back to the house like 3 days later. They request to see the purse. And Norma's like, "Yeah, no problem." Actually, wait, which purse? Oh, the white clip top purse that was in the basement that Stuart saw and asked me about? Oh, I just threw it away. I threw it away the other day. Fuck, I wish I would have known. And they're like, "Wait, didn't you, when he was here 3 days ago, didn't you tell him that you bought it like a few days before at the thrift store? Where'd you throw it away?"
Wow. Why would she lie for someone like that?
And it was never seen again. So Alan and Stuart take this as their sign that they need to take a step back and they need to just get this fucking book out, which they do. Releasing The Satin Man in 2013 with everything plus some that I have told you throughout these 2 episodes, prompting the South Australian police to use ground penetrating radar to search around Harry's old factory in Adelaide, which is the location that Hayden referred to as, quote, the pit. And it actually showed anomalies in the soil, indicating that something was likely there currently or had been at one point because the soil had been moved. They then excavate 1 square meter space, but there was nothing. Either way, this really threw the Beaumont Children's case back into the public eye, and everyone knew the truth about who Harry Phipps truly was for the first time, which led to several more people coming forward, including a woman who claimed that she was brutally raped by Harry Phipps at the age of 14 in 1979, and then another person that came forward whose name is Dave. Dave was a teenager in 1966 and was hired to do a job for Harry Phipps just days after the Beaumont's abductions during the long holiday Australia Day weekend in 1966. According to David, he and his brother Robin were hired by Harry to dig a hole on the grounds of Harry's Castalloy factory. When asked how big the hole was, David told investigators that Harry had requested a 2 by 1 by 2 meter hole. David later said, big enough to fit a small child, noting that it was in a different location from where the previous dig had taken place at the location where the quote anomaly was initially spotted on the ground penetrating radar, or the pit, and even showed police the location where he remembered digging that hole that day back in 1966. With this information, police took their large team, I'm like forensic people, anthropology people, all the archaeologists, whatever the fuck you could think of, with that same radar technology, and they tested it over the area that he pointed out. So like, I think this is where I dug it. Bitch, there were multiple soil anomalies identified. So on February 2nd of 2018, a second dig begins at this location. It went on for 12 hours before it was called off because the only thing they could find was animal bones. Well, this is where our update comes in, because at the end of 2024, Harry's old factory was set for demolition as they were preparing to put the land up for sale. So the community of Adelaide joined together to raise enough money for a final dig to take place in search of anything that could potentially connect this location to the Beaumont Children. The dig began on February 22nd, 2025, and focused on 3 main areas. The first 2 being the previous dig sites, and the third being a location that they still haven't given a lot of information about, but they had tested it just as they had done with the other 2 with radar penetrating technology. The dig ended, I think, on either the 24th or the 25th, and this is what we know now.
I still haven't seen a picture.
Oh, let me fucking show you. I can't believe I never showed you.
I need a picture.
Okay, actually, I showed it to you when we were drunk at the bar.
Oh,
That's the guy.
a little chunky.
When he was older, yeah, okay. Harry Phipps. This was him around the time. Let me
Look at the nose.
comparatively for you.
Oh my God.
This is him when he's old. I want you to look at the fucking hair. Wavy, parted to one side, neat.
Wow. Not as skinny in the face?
Not as skinny in the face as you'd think. I think this is actually when he was maybe even older than that.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. But also though, like for him to have had this, like, that's if we're assuming this is the only case and he didn't also do the other ones, he clearly had a fucking breakdown. So he probably did lose drastic amount of weight, wasn't eating, like full breakdown, watched the park, went.
Well, also, it's really rare that a composite sketch looks as similar to a suspect as we saw with the first guy, Arthur Brown.
Yeah.
That literally looks like someone saw a picture of him and drew him. Yeah. Yeah, like that's crazy. So to me, that makes more sense in the case, because it's not like based on fucking witness descriptions they're going to be able to get a fucking perfect picture of who this guy is. I know it's been done in the past, but it's rare. And it makes so much sense
that it would be someone so prominent, because people are like, oh, that kind of looks like Harry. They're like, oh my God, he would never.
He would literally never.
Passing Harry, have you heard about the Beaumont kids? You look just like the sketch. Oh my God.
But he didn't, like, really, like.
Yeah. You kind of resemble him.
But the description that they gave in terms of, like, if we never saw that composite sketch matches Harry Phipps.
Yeah.
perfectly. Just the oral, the written
Right.
description.
Right.
Okay, so let me give you the update. Wrapping this up now, we literally have 7 minutes left on our camera. Morgan's case gone. Okay. So you guys don't worry. Next week for St. Patty's Day, it's all going to be creepy.
If you're a Patreon, you'll hear it on a mini.
Yeah, okay. And already know next week is not going to have a crime mentioned. So we will be talking about all creeps next week. Here we go. This article is from the Australian Broadcasting Network. Broadcasting Company, ABC.
Whoa.
No, not the...
No, wait.
How is that legal?
Wait, what does ABC stand for?
A American Broadcasting Company.
That's what you just said.
No, this is Australian Broadcasting Company.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Sorry to our Australians. They're probably like, well, no, that's what we think about your ABC. Does your ABC own Disney? Owned by Disney? No. Okay, moving on. Also like a creep case in itself. Okay. So this is from the Australian Broadcasting Company, ABC News. This was published on Saturday, March 1st, 2025 at 5:24 a.m. The title is 7-Day Search for the Beaumont Children Concludes at Former Castelloy Site in Adelaide's West. A 7-day search for the missing Beaumont children at the former Castelloy Site in Adelaide's West has concluded. This is all a quote. I'm reading this verbatim. The independent MP announced early on Saturday afternoon that the search, which he claimed was the quote, biggest clandestine, as we go back and forth on this shit, grave dig in the world, end quote, had officially concluded. Quote, after 7 days of what I'm told is the biggest clandestine grave dig in the world, which saw the removal of almost 10,000 tons of soil and a number of holes dug here in at the Castelloy site, unfortunately, we have not turned up anything.
What?
There's a tinge of disappointment in my voice, but at the same time, I am grateful and satisfied that we gave this one hell of a shot. I think that we can walk away satisfied that we are not going to find the remains at this location.
Whoa. Okay, well, he has other businesses.
He had multiple other properties.
He has multiple other homes.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows for sure where he drove that car.
Right.
Damn.
And he could have had the bodies removed. And we know Norma's out here covering shit up.
Yeah, no, is she alive?
I think she's still alive.
Norma, come on, babe. It's like, what are you covering for that monster?
Truly.
If you ever listen to this, which I feel like you might.
Because she's probably thinking that she's going to get sued and lose all the millions of money that she inherited from her husband's death.
Okay, well, if you've...
Maybe write a fucking letter when you eventually die, because you will.
Yeah.
We all will.
But I also wonder, no. If she was the housekeeper... during that time, they know more than the owners know.
Exactly. So
they know
she's
everything
covering.
that's going on.
Maybe that's why he fucking married her.
Yeah.
Because I did read in the book, The Satin Man, and also on several other things, is what led to Hayden's, so the son's, first marriage ending was because he was running the business in Adelaide with his dad. He was head of the companies that he had. They had a falling out, him and his dad, in the 80s, and the dad paid him off and paid him to move out of Adelaide to Queensland, which is where he met Angela, the second wife that came forward, to keep him quiet, essentially. So what he was keeping him quiet about exactly, I don't know if it was the sexual assault, the abuse, the Beaumont children, I don't know.
All of the above.
All of the above.
But I also wonder if his son ever, or if Hayden ever confronted his dad, about the Beaumont children. And I saw you with them that day.
From what I have read, I think no, because one of the things that Angela talked, Hayden talks at length about his father. However, there's always this tinge of wanting to protect his dad, just as Harry, his father, wanted to protect his mother, who was his abuser. And we see that very fucking often in cases of children that were sexually abused or abused in general by their parents.
Yeah, you can see it on now current day on the Ruby Frankie documentary.
100%. Morgan, I'm not gonna lie, if it's not Harry Phipps, it has to be Arthur Brown.
Yeah, it's one of them.
One of them.
Who's to say Arthur Brown wasn't there?
No one. That's the point. No one can say if he's dead.
Business trips.
But the problem is that they've never even found their bodies. So wherever the bodies are, and hey,
Ocean.
there's still a chance, which I think it's very fucking slim, but wishful thinking is the fact that one day an ancestry hit will come through and it'll be the Beaumonts.
Right.
It'll be one of the siblings.
And then who's the sick fuck again that was like, yeah, I sewed them?
Oh, fucking Bevan.
And what was
Bevan.
he about?
He was the family ring, like
Okay,
sexual assault, trafficking ring, essentially, of only 14 to 25-year-old males.
Okay.
Also, though, what's interesting about that is they were all very wealthy socialites.
Probably a big group. And I wonder if Arthur
Brown, the second
Arthur
dude.
Brown, like, ran into the socialite group, and obviously they're not going to go and kidnap these kids themselves, so they do a front, and that's why the description matches his, and then he drops them off at wherever they need to go.
Right, that's
like
it. Yeah,
freaking order, like a
well,
DoorDash
it's a trafficking ring.
Yes.
It's what that is. Like when you have a family, like the family murders, that's trafficking. More so than, you know, just like as simple as, not that it's simple for an abduction and a murder, but most of the time those are very isolated, very personal, typically like very isolated from people, don't really have a relationship. But then you have the outliers like BTK and so on.
Yeah, like he could have been
like
their
Harry
runner.
Phipps.
He could have been their kidnapper.
Phipps.
For this big ring of socialites.
Yep.
And they would be able to hide where he's been, so nothing comes back to them. They'd
I'm
be able to get rid of documents.
curious if after everything that's come out in the years that have gone by, if the police are just going to be like, look, we did all this and we gave it one fucking hell of a shot, but we're not going to let this media attention die down. I wonder if in the next few months they're going to try to rev something else back up. I think we just lost our SD card. Yep, we did. Okay.
You did a wonderful job of a terrible multitude of a terrible
Terrible case
with multiple
cases.
horrendous cases.
How many cases
and
did you guys
people.
get?
Like 7.
Like truly in the last one. Not that that's like a happy thing, but
Yeah, but no, it was a lot.
yeah. And I am BTK'd out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're back there.
That's what she was texting me today and was like, dude, this might be a 3-parter, but I'm done.
I can't.
Like it'll drain you. Yeah.
I can't let
If
it
you
go
went
on.
another week, you wouldn't have came back.
No, I really wouldn't have. I truly wouldn't have.
Once
So
you surpass the
I mean,
2-part,
I've chewed off all my
yeah,
nails.
that's how you know. Once
Yeah.
you surpass the 2-part, you're
That's
done.
where I can't take it anymore. Anything that goes past like me having to think about it for just like 2 consecutive episodes, and I've gone too far with it. The only thing I might do, like I said, is the full family case in 84, P84, Patreon 84.
very interesting. I'd actually
Yeah, it's
Kim
fucking
Manson copycat.
horrible.
And that was the same era.
Yeah, also in the 70s, which makes you wonder about projects that were going on worldwide because they were doing LSD and all the things. Victims were all found with hallucinogenics in their systems. We could go on.
Very weird.
So I'm hopefully going to cover that on Patreon 84 next week. We had to push that this week. Patreon's getting a vlog this week, and we're going to play catch up next week, mainly because we are recording St. Patty's Day the day after that you're listening to this. Because it has to be done on a fucking Friday or we will never survive to continue on with the week. It's a full 2-day recovery.
Nope.
We've got DDs lined up.
I wish we could like rent out Clancy's or like
I know, somewhere like that.
Chicken Reel
I know.
and just like chill with them making us drinks.
We just need a bartender the entire time.
Yeah.
What is this week's TBB? Morgan Spiral, and it's so good.
What is that?
What we talked about at
yeah.
dinner.
Okay,
yeah. Without
Our
giving them a
tattoos.
surprise. Yeah, our new tattoos. And it's so fucking good. It literally carried over into like conversations throughout the weekend because that's how fucking good it was. Next Thursday will be St. Patrick's Day. And then the Tuesday after that for TBB will be St. Patrick's Day continued because it comes out the day after St. Patty's Day. So get your fucking merch on. You still got time. If you ordered it right now, it'll be here in time.
Yeah.
We expect everyone on the Thursday prior to St. Patrick's Day to be wearing their St. Patty's Day Creeps and
Tag us
Crimes
in
merch. Tag us in it with your coworkers, all the things. Just go ahead and prepare that you're not going to listen to next Thursday's episode 233 until you get off the clock because you're going to need to have a drink with us.
Yes. It's a requirement.
I'm very excited. The studio will be green and ready. Okay, love you guys so much. I'm so sorry, but I'm so fucking glad that this chapter is done. A case that has, I've wanted to cover since we started this fucking podcast.
It was thorough. You did a good job.
Thank you. And like I said, all of those books can be found on Amazon. Satin Man can be found on Apple Books. Read the whole thing. It's horrible. I basically gave you everything that
My
you need
goal
to
for
know.
March is I'll do it. This is my goal.
You're going to read a book?
No.
I was like, where you
It's
go?
going to be to update our Amazon store link.
Okay,
And
yeah.
our storefront. And like, because I feel like lately.
We have books in there. We haven't done it in a year.
Yeah, we have our merch on there.
Yeah, we need to
And
put
then
our merch. Yeah.
I don't know what's still up there, but
Yeah.
like a lot of this stuff lately we've been.
Yeah. We need to update. That's your goal.
Okay.
And getting all of our tax documents in. Yeah. I did all the numbers. You do all the paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you guys.
Love you.
We will talk to you on Tuesday.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.